a third high-speed railway for Britain.
Well, there's the chance there. I haven't even got the second one yet, and the man who poses all that is Joe Rukin, campaign manager of Stop HS2. Good to talk to you, Mr. Rukin. I mean, do you think the government is just drawing lines on a map here? Do you think it's got any real intention of building these things?
Well, I don't actually think George Osborne has got as far as actually drawing a line on a map. He said he wants to start a conversation today, which is basically saying, I've got no plan whatsoever, but there is an election coming up and maybe I can get some seats in Manchester and Leeds. You know, he's finally figured out after 4 years the design flaw in HS2, that asking people to go from Manchester to Leeds via Birmingham and go 160 miles out of their way was probably a bad idea. To be perfectly honest, what George should be doing is investing properly in the northern transport infrastructure, in the Northern Hub, for example, instead of the budget version of the Northern Hub, going for the full version, opening up the Woodhead Tunnel from Manchester to Sheffield instead of permanently closing it, and also realising that there is more to the north than Manchester and Leeds. The north's hardly started by the time you get to Manchester, and the rest of the region is going to suffer when investment just goes to these two big Leviathan cities.
OK, so not a fan then. Let's talk to someone who might be. Mike Spicer is Director of Research with the British Chambers of Commerce. Mr. Spicer, I don't know how much of that you heard, but do you think HS3 will be a welcome addition once HS2 is built?
Well, the prospect of a high-speed east-west rail link is a good one if it materialises. But we'd also like to see a more ambitious vision for connecting all of the major cities of the north, and that includes Liverpool and Newcastle. I was in Newcastle only last week speaking to businesses there about the barriers to growth that they face. And that transport connectivity is always an issue that crops up. So we are at the start of a conversation. We haven't got detailed route development plans or anything like that. But what we would say at this stage is that we'd like that vision to be ambitious, to cover the whole of the north of England, and to look at connectivity from Liverpool all the way through Manchester, Leeds and up to Newcastle. OK,
more of it, of course. Well, Joe Rukin, I mean, is there a seed of hope for you and your campaign within the HS3 plans, what we know of them, in that it's far from an entirely new line? A lot of it would be upgrading and improving, and isn't that what you're saying could happen to the north-south rail links instead of HS2?
Well, that's what we've been saying right from the start, that there's vast scope for improvement in the current rail networks, improving the signalling, so you go into in-cab signalling, so you can actually have trains that are designed for 140 miles an hour going on tracks that are designed for 140 miles an hour, because the signals at the moment won't allow them to do that. You can get more trains on the tracks, you can improve the infrastructure in other ways, address the pinch points, exactly those sort of things. Invest in the current infrastructure, opposed to spending so much of taxpayers' money on something that just basically is not needed.
Mike Spicer, do you think these things will ever be built? I mean, as I said earlier, it seems like there's a lot of lines on maps at the moment, and people can do HS4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and keep on going, but we still haven't had a turf dug.
Well, what we'd like to see, once the detailed development work is done and we have a fully costed plan on the table, what we would hope is that if the economic case after that work is done stacks up, then we move to the delivery phase very strongly. Look, if you look at other transport projects, Crossrail, High Speed 2 now, of course, what we've seen are huge development times from the initial planning phase to securing the funding and then to developing it. And what we'd like to see is that process shortened so that businesses in the north of England and elsewhere, when we're talking about High Speed 2, can benefit from that investment earlier and not have to wait decades for the benefits of those investments. So yes, we want more, but we want it to be delivered earlier as well, and that's what businesses are calling for.
And there is this argument, isn't there? I mean, there's no answer to this, though. What makes it clear? Why would then more investment go from London to the north and not happen the other way around? Why wouldn't more people just take advantage, staying with you, Mike Spicer, of the quicker connectivity to London?
Well, in this case, we're talking about east-west rail connectivity and the connections that exist between those major cities in the north. And what that would give businesses is a more integrated labour pool, so it would make it easier for businesses in those cities to attract and retain labour, because there are more opportunities in a connected economic unit if those connections were made. It enhances productivity because it takes less time to travel between the two, and there's more capacity between those places. So it's not, in this particular case, I think we're talking about how those cities collectively are joined up into a unit. And if you look at other countries like Germany, you look at the Rhineland, the Ruhr Valley, and so on, where you have economic corridors with large cities along them, you can see the benefits of investment in connectivity there, and that's what we need in the north of England too.
Rukin, you must have heard the charge already of NIMBYism, that you're sitting there attempting to block the prosperity flooding all parts of the country.
Well, absolutely. The fact of the matter is that HS2 is badly thought out. It's not necessary. It's a white elephant. And, you know, on that issue of sucking more economic activity to London, that's exactly what has happened. No matter which country you look at, you find that whenever high-speed rail links have opened, more economic activity has been sucked to the capital city. And that is absolutely what will happen as a result of HS2. And to compare HS2 with, you know, what's happened in Germany, it's quite honestly, well, not very reasonable, because what you have on those lines is you have intermediate stations. You've got a line, for example, about the same length as London to Birmingham, which has got 2 intermediate stations. Now, if HS2 was supposedly to spread economic benefit, you would have these intermediate stations, which HS2 doesn't. But realistically, this project is not necessary. You can deliver more capacity and more benefits to more people more quickly by investing in the existing rail infrastructure and spend a lot less money on it as well, and get those results far quicker. That's what we need. We need an integrated transport solution. We don't need this white elephant that will purely be the reserve of the business elite who do the long distance intercity journeys, while everyone else faces crush hour conditions.
All right, I don't know if those sheep are agreeing with you or not. I don't speak Barber. Joe Rukin, thank you very much indeed. Mike Spicer, very good to see you too. Thank you very much.